Good afternoon, everyone.
Good
Just
afternoon.
a couple minutes past 2, so I want to be sure and get us started on time, be respectful of all of your time. Just to open us up quickly before our Chamber Board Chair delivers some opening remarks for us. I want to thank you all for coming here today to hear our community stakeholder update on how we will carry forward economic and community development in Greenwood. And when we start, wanted you to know that county officials held several transitional meetings over the past several months that have led us here, and those same officials decided it was time to have a larger gathering of the larger group of stakeholders to update you on where we are in this process and our progress to date. And here to start us off with that is Ms. Sarah Sears, Greenwood Chamber Board Chair.
Great, thanks James, appreciate it. As James said, my name is Sarah Sears. I have the privilege of serving as the chair of the Greenwood Chamber Board this year, and I appreciate your time today and allowing us some time to update you on our collaborative efforts. Greenwood's Community and Economic Development Collaborative emerged mid-year as a result of the changing economic development landscape. The Greenwood Chamber, Greenwood County's Economic Development Department, Discover Greenwood, and Uptown Development Corporation under the umbrella of the City of Greenwood began conversations around how to best serve, promote, and grow our Greenwood County community. Out of these discussions, James kind of alluded to the numerous meetings that we've been having, and they'll provide you some more details here shortly. We identified a series of priorities. All these priorities need to be woven into a strategy of moving community and economic development forward. The county's Economic Development Department will assume responsibility for industrial recruitment and retention, along with transportation. The Chamber will support the county and the city's efforts by working in the areas of workforce development, small business and retail development within the county, neighborhood revitalization, and housing development. Uptown Development Corporation and the City of Greenwood will support by focusing on recruiting and retaining retail and small business within the city. Our vision incorporates a unified marketing and branding of Greenwood, and this effort is being supported by Discover Greenwood and its agency of record, Design Sensory. All of the collaborative partners will be contributing to an enhanced quality of life. Hence, we have adopted a transitional name of Greenwood Together. We all agree that focusing on these elements together allows all partners to leverage what have historically been individual efforts. By aligning all the wonderful individual efforts, we will be able to market Greenwood with a unified message, a unified community brand, and telling a better story about our community. David Doherty, our interim CEO for the Chamber, is going to begin our updates, our partner updates, followed by Laura Hudson with the Uptown Development Corporation, Kelly McWhorter with Discover Greenwood, and I believe, James, you're going to wrap things up for us, right, with some status updates and additional comments regarding our progress. So with that, I'm going to hand it over to David. Thank you, David.
Thank you, Sarah, and good afternoon to everyone. Delighted to be here and share with you some progress that we have experienced over the last few months. As Sarah indicated, the partners in this consortium have gathered together and identified priorities that we want to weave into our game plan, if you will. And out of that, the Chamber is going to have responsibility for the workforce development piece, as Sarah alluded to. And to address that, James Bateman and I have made a series of 15 calls on both industrial and healthcare sectors, along with organizations identified as key players in the economic development arena. Out of this, these calls that we have done, we have found that there's a series of very common themes that arrive out of the discussions that we've had. Insufficient skilled workforce with basic skills represent a major concern. Current programs are addressing needs and skills. Those programs are working, but there is a need to jumpstart programming to close the gap on basic skills. This seems to be a very serious deficit that exists for our county partners that employ our workforce. Additionally, the opportunity to provide input in order to justify financial investments was also identified, along with the need to focus on a housing strategy to better enable industry sectors to recruitment efforts for executive and professional level staff to live in Greenwood. To begin addressing these concerns, the Chamber has launched a request for proposal on November the 20th to do a workforce strategic plan. The proposals are due in around the 14th of December, and we anticipate awarding for that RFP in very early January. As it relates to housing and neighborhood revitalization, the Chamber anticipates that out of the workforce strategy plan, there will be a need for housing strategic plan that might emerge. This would provide a working document to best approach housing efforts. The Chamber also anticipates working in a collaborative effort with municipalities of Ware Shoals, 96, Hodges, and Troy to begin dialogue around housing deficits that exist in these outlying areas and incorporate these municipalities in collective conversations to address the needs identified. Within the city of Greenwood, the Chamber anticipates supporting the city with its neighborhood revitalization efforts, along with working with community associations, Habitat for Humanity, and other nonprofits to address neighborhood revitalization. With regards to retail and small business recruitment within the county, this area of focus will first begin with assessing the needs and potential for retail and small businesses in the outlying municipalities. Assessments of available space along with stakeholder input will be the first step of that process. And with that, I will turn it over to Laura.
Thank you, David. Sorry, I'm going to put my readers on so I can see my notes. So I see there's a lot of new faces in the room, so I wanted to just give everybody a little brief overview of what Uptown actually is. A lot of people don't actually understand the makeup of Uptown Greenwood and the relationship with the city. We are a true department of the city, but we also are a separate 501c6. We have a board of directors, and we are actually a special tax district. So the property owners in that special tax district pay a tax to Uptown Greenwood to fund the office of Uptown Greenwood Development Corporation. And we work solely in the Uptown district. And that's been our focus from the very beginning that when we started in the 80s. As this collaborative has come together, we have realized that there needs to be a more outgrowing focus on the city as well, not just Uptown. So in some of these new changes that you'll see, we have taken some steps to grow the Uptown office. Our farmers market manager left us, and so with that we decided to step back and realign our organization, and so we are now going to be, and we're in the midst of hiring an event and market manager, so that person would handle the farmers market as well as events, not just in Uptown but also in the city. There are a lot of things that we do on a city level to support neighborhood events and community events that this person will also help to handle, as well as some other things like social media and marketing. And we will realign my role, and I will be working strategically on retail recruitment, retention, and also redevelopment. So we'll be working with creating new businesses and recruiting new businesses to Greenwood. We'll be working to redevelop hopefully some spaces that are empty, but also working to retain the business that we have. We've seen over the last 6 months how critical that is. And me being able to focus my time on them has been really critical. And if we had been having events going on, we wouldn't have had the time. It's really hard to do both of those things. But the mission of Uptown Greenwood has always been to be an economic development entity, but we've become very event heavy. So this is going to allow us to free up some time and be able to really focus on growing the retail in Greenwood. And there really hasn't ever been a concerted effort in that area. So we're really pleased that we're going to be able to do that. Just currently what we're working on, we have not definitely gotten as far as James and David have on the industrial side, but we are doing some things in the background, working on and preparing for. We again are going to be hiring this new person, hopefully have them ready to go in January. And then we're also going to be working on in 2019 in the fall, the partnership and Uptown and the city and CPW did a retail analysis of the city and of the county with a company called Buxton. You may have heard some about that program. And we are going to continue to work that program. That was an analysis of the retail atmosphere in Greenwood, what we have, what we need, what our customers want, those types of things. So we will continue to work in collaboration with Kay at the foundation office on that plan. We have about 20 matches for some retail, some dining, and some recreation, and that will be the first step that we take. We're going to be doing some things like building inventories, things that are available not only in Uptown but also in the city. There's a lot of boxes that we have empty that we want to fill, so we're going to be working on that, building inventory. We are also working with Kelly and James and David on the united messaging that we're putting together for Greenwood Together, and we'll be a part of that just like everybody else, and just trying to create that message that Greenwood is a great place to start a business, to do business, and to grow your business. So we'll be working on those things. We'll also be working on an incentive package, and we'll probably work very closely with the county to make sure that the city package and the county package look a lot alike, as well as one specifically for Uptown, because there are things that Uptown businesses are privileged to that other businesses are not. So we'll be working on incentive packages for those things. We're going to work to develop relationships with our local developers. That's something I haven't been able to do that I want to. I know a lot of the Uptown folks. I see Mr. Burke in the back. I know Tim, and there's a lot of other folks that we want to begin to build relationships with and work to develop some of our great properties in the city and in the Uptown. We've been studying and researching and also meeting virtually with some other communities out throughout the state that are doing a really good job at this retail recruitment. So we've met with Florence. We're going to be meeting with Anderson and Hartsville, lots of other communities that we know are doing a good job. So we'll be kind of learning from them and hopefully bringing back some of those best practices here. We're also hoping to look at streamlining how we go about having a new business come to Greenwood. You know, we want to put together a program that's a pretty easy in and out. You want to start a business, here's what you do. So we'll be working on some things like that going forward. And we're going to continue to grow some of the programs that we are using today to support our existing businesses. Entrepreneurial programs. A group of us have been talking over the last year about how we can start an entrepreneur program here in Greenwood, and we're going to work on that, as well as some of the things we've continued to do for Uptown. We've offered workshops for those people, our Uptown businesses in marketing, design, even some things like HR and finance. There are small businesses don't have access to, so we're going to work closely with our partners at the Upper Savannah, as well as the Clemson Small Business Centers. So we'll be working with them. And then finally, we'll of course look to do some training and some education. This is all new for us, myself and the other folks on the city staff. This is new to us, so we're going to learn, and we'll be looking to do some training, and also to join those different groups. There's, the SCEDAs and the International Council of Shopping Centers. We'll be looking to go to some of those things and just grow this program from the ground up. Basically, is what we're doing. But we're real excited about it, and we look forward to first quarter of the year really getting everything going. And with that, I believe I'm turning it over to Kelly McWhorter.
Thank you, Laura. I'll just read off of here. It's fine. As she mentioned, my name is Kelly McWhorter. I am the Executive Director of Discover Greenwood, and we are the primary destination marketing organization for Greenwood County, which makes us a joint city-county department. As the primary destination marketing organization, it is our job to market Greenwood to others, and we have contracted with Design Sensory about 3 years ago. Design Sensory is a turnkey full-service ad agency based out of Knoxville, Tennessee. They have been huge in helping us develop our messaging and our branding. As we met as a cooperative, we realized very quickly that one of the top priorities for this new cooperative moving forward is to develop a unified message and unified branding. So it was agreed that we would continue our relationship with Design Sensory moving forward and have entered into a scope of work with them for the first phase of marketing for this cooperative. And so far, we've actually accomplished a great deal in the last 30 to 60 days, starting with a countywide familiarization tour for Design Sensory. While they were very aware of our tourism assets, they learned more on their tour about our potential retail and industrial assets that we will be marketing moving forward with this particular cooperative. They also assisted us with a SWOT analysis of our community, listing the strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. You will soon be getting a stakeholder survey. If you have not already completed that, we would greatly appreciate it if you would complete that. It is a little more detailed than what we started out with, but it is an online survey, very easy to complete, and that will be going out in the next day or two to each of you. So please help us with your input by completing that. We also are working on the actual branding and positioning with, we did some very in-depth exercises when Design Sensory was last year. They are also conducting a competitive set evaluation, and what that translates into in layman's terms is they will put out different messages and different brands to different markets and see which ones perform the best and come back to us with that data. They are performing an asset gap analysis as well as the construction of a microsite. The microsite has been deep in the works in the last week or so, and the goal for this microsite is to go live in the next day or two. So I feel like we're getting very close to that. And the web address will be greenwoodtogether.com. So please check that in the coming days. You'll see that. The next priority for Design Sensory to complete is a series of one-sheets that will be able to be used moving forward with industrial recruitment, retail recruitment, and the like, consisting of an organizational overview, industry information, as well as retail and small business information. And at the end of this exercise with all of these components of the first phase, Design Sensory will come back with a significant deliverable of a strategic creative brief as well as an annual plan proposal. So this has been an extremely busy time for us and for Design Sensory. We're grateful to them for their partnership and also for their familiarity of Greenwood already. We think that's an asset as we move forward with this particular part of the campaign. So James, I'll turn it over to you. Thank you.
Thank you, Kelly and Laura, David, Sarah. Part of my role will be not just to tell you about the county's own priorities of industrial development and public transportation that we didn't say, but Stephanie Dorn, our incoming county treasurer, will brief you on the latest with transportation. But part of my role also to be recap where we are in this presentation, restate some of the things that you've already heard, being the first time that some of you are hearing these things, so that you are a part of the process, know what has been accomplished thus far and what the plans are going forward, and how all the stakeholders, such as yourselves, will stay informed going forward. So you heard from Kelly about the unified brand and the cohesive messaging that Design Sensory has established for us. And first and foremost is a transitional identity. Our brand is Greenwood Together, and that's Greenwood County, City of Greenwood, Uptown Greenwood, Discover Greenwood, as some of you know, as a tourism bureau, and the Greenwood Chamber. Those 5 partner organizations you can think of as kind of a dotted line across between each of those entities. that are all operating under a unified umbrella of Greenwood Together, with a common mission of selling Greenwood and promoting Greenwood. Each of us selling to a different audience, whether that be visitors and tourists, prospective industries, or prospective small businesses and retail establishments. Talk some about after those priorities, the programming that is already underway, and then what's planned going forward in the future. The first and the greatest of them was the Workforce Strategic Plan, and the reason that's the first request for proposals to come out from the Chamber after the marketing first phase was kicked off with Design Sensory. All of these running parallel tracks, marketing and programming, with phase one between now and the beginning of the new year. That's the intensive ramp-up period for Greenwood Together, and transitioning us to our new brand for the outside world to see, and for our inside world here in Greenwood County to identify with in all areas of the county with this all-inclusive approach. Phase two, which would be 2021, is continued ramp up, and then in 2022 going forward, we see as equilibrium for these groups operating together and continuing to keep stakeholders like yourselves informed of the progress and reporting out on those metrics, and that consistency will be key for the success of this effort. So the Chamber will administer this Workforce Strategic Plan. There are a number of you in the room who are going to be key stakeholders in that process. That consultant will be contracted to not only conduct a trend analysis of our economy and our workforce in Greenwood, but to assess the gaps in our workforce as well, and to assess all the plans and the programs that have been done in the past several years that have been launched, to not recreate a new program per se, but to show us what synergies can be realized between these existing programs and how we can increase our pool of qualified workers for our top employment sectors in Greenwood, and manufacturing and healthcare, to name just the top two. The retail strategy execution that Laura talked about is underway, will continue, and you heard her say that that's in an expanded role for herself, which is the City of Greenwood. So you've heard about countywide efforts, and that's why I want to tell you what's planned in order to recruit retail and small business countywide and outside of the City of Greenwood, where we have a better handle on commercial property availability. There will be new capacity that has to be added, likely at the Chamber, as they focus on workforce, small business, and housing, in order for them to do an asset inventory on those commercial properties. So what's available in Ware Shoals and Hodges and 96, and where are some of those vacancies that Laura knows about in Uptown Greenwood, but what exists outside of Uptown in the City of Greenwood? We have to know what's available before we can recruit anyone into the county. And on the housing, plans are for a county-wide or community-wide housing strategic plan that could be one of the outcomes from that workforce plan, as housing or lack of housing is one of the key obstacles for our recruiting employers as far as their talent recruitment and retention across all sectors. Just to recap what's underway, what's planned, how we are all working together. Now for really my part on industrials. Greenwood County, Ware chose to create its own economic development department. I'm the interim director for Greenwood County Economic Development. What does that mean? So people say, well, you're an economic developer, what do you do? That means managing the projects, a liaison for the county with prospective industries and existing industries with potential expansion plans, and helping them with any needs that they have. I would tell you that we're managing multiple projects currently. There is a project on the agenda for tonight's county council meeting. There is already a solar development that has been approved for incentives since I came over to the county. So don't walk away thinking that we're missing any opportunities. The county is responding to requests for information from prospective industries, actively managing projects, and continuing to develop our product. So talk about retail and small business, you have to have product on the shelf, know what is available to sell to those prospects. Same can be said for industry, and you see the North Greenwood Industrial Park, which is the county-owned park on Highway 25 behind me, and the Palmetto Sites designation that was achieved in September of this year since the creation of the county's Economic Development Department. It being one of the first sites in the state of South Carolina to receive that designation, checking all the boxes for due diligence, knowing we have the answers for prospective industries. Since September, the county engaged CBRE, an industrial real estate brokerage, largest in the world. It was chosen to help us market the North Greenwood Industrial Park and the spec building specifically, which was completed in November and held the spec building ribbon cutting on November the 20th. That event, like today, is intended to be all-inclusive and inviting those partners in that area of the county to come along with us. The town of Hodges, town of Ware Shoals, Hodges Cokesbury Volunteer Fire Department is there with their new truck for that ribbon cutting. Another example of the all-inclusiveness of Greenwood together. Also wanted to point out the new park logo that's being created by CBRE for the North Greenwood Industrial Park. So there's marketing for the collaborative with Greenwood Together. Is also marketing specifically on the industrial side that is happening, and all of these things we plan to come together in that second phase. We continue to ramp up or have a full build out of each of our websites from the microsite that you've seen the cover page for today. This was from the ribbon cutting on November 20th. Our available product for industry is not only the county spec building, though that is a premier site location. Other industrial buildings that have come on the market include the Mayville Engineering Company on Highway 72, 221. So you may know that as Center Manufacturing on Lawrence Highway. That building is available. The Eaton Hydraulics facility on West Alexander Road has also come on to the market. There's other product that is available as well to recruit new industry into Greenwood as we assist those displaced by any of those closures on the workforce side. And should mention also talk about the retention. It's not just the recruitment of industries, but the retention of industries. And we want you to know there are several existing industries that we've talked with about expansion plans since the creation of this county department, and we'll continue to work with them and bring those expansions to fruition. Not only to address questions that you may have about Greenwood Together and the county's role in industrial development, but also it may relate to COVID impacts. And you ask, well, all this is coming about in what seems like could be a downturn. I'll tell you that it's not. Continue to see high industrial activity. The pause that there has been globally for COVID, I think, gives us a great opportunity to realize these synergies, combine forces between our partner organizations, engage all of you who it will take support from both time, resources, and financially to realize the greatest success from these efforts. And on the public transportation side is another potential impediment to our workforce and a general need countywide. Stephanie Dorn is going to give us an overview on public transportation.
Thank you, James. So Kathy Miller, the county treasurer, and myself went out and we were on a fact gathering initiative, I'll say. And so I just want to give you a brief background on where we're at right now. There are grant funds available to the County of Greenwood through SCDOT. Those funds are required to be matched 50-50. So if they pay half of a trip, just think of it that way, then the county has to find funding for the remaining half of that trip to pay for these sources. Most of you have probably seen the MAT trucks around McCormick Area Transit. They are an existing service that's already approved through DOT to provide this service throughout the county if this is the initiative direction that we take. So just a real quick, how does it actually work? A citizen would call in to MAT into their existing system and request a trip. They would ensure that it meets whatever program criteria the county decides on, such as what area it covers, what types of trip it covers. If the trip is approved, then Matt would let the citizen know of any fare due, and they would schedule the trip. The driver collects the fee, the fare. Basically, they have a 10-minute window for the individual, if they come to pick them up, to be available to leave for their trip. The MAT would provide the county with detailed invoices. The county would pay the invoice, and then we would seek reimbursement from DOT. Can't see what I'm doing, so I'm making sure I'm staying together. Just a few more details. Matt has a lot of experience with this, and so they just made some recommendations for the county to consider if we move forward with this. They recommended starting with medical trips because that's a known base. We already know that there's a demand for this kind of service. The chamber has already agreed to host those vehicles in their parking lot so that they have a location here. They already have 2 vehicles that are ready to go with local Greenwood-based drivers, so that there's no need for delays in transit to start off the day. They believe that they would be able to supplement that as needed if the program had the demand and if we decided to grow the program. It's important to note that they are not a Medicare provider. Medicare has their own service that does those kinds of things, and it has to be maintained as a demand response system. They can't have a fixed route or what's considered a charter service. They received their license through the state, and they already have established what kind of services that they provide. And so these would just be an on-demand type of service, what we've looked at this point. So what would be the next steps that have to be taken? First, we have to determine what our source of grant matching funds will be, whether it's going to be county, private, combination, some other source of funds. And then the county has to determine what the service area would be, the service times, what trips would be allowed, and what fare would be charged. Then it's a matter of letting SCDOT know that we would like to proceed with the grant, and that could take up to 2 months of a process to get the paperwork with them, negotiating a contract with McCormick Area Transit, and then having a public hearing to establish all of the items, the fare, the hours, service area, and the service type. So from the time a decision is made that this is the direction we may choose to go in, it's probably at least 90 to 120 days before the vehicles are able to start servicing the area.
May I ask you one question?
You sure can.
You said Medicare, but do they take Medicaid? Do they get Medicaid reimbursement for those
No,
trips?
ma'am.
Medical trips?
No, ma'am. There's no.
No Medicaid or Medicare?
No, ma'am.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you, Stephanie. And I'm going to try and wrap us up, and then each of our partner organization leads that's spoken to you today, I'd ask to come up and answer any questions that you all may have. We've covered a lot of ground. These are major priorities for all of our county. There will be input that is needed from all of you in each of these areas. We want to keep you engaged. Talk about consistency, and this is the first of a series of community update presentations that we have planned. Next would be in January, preceding the first county council meeting of the month here in this same room at 2 o'clock on January the 5th, and the next in February on Tuesday, February the 2nd. Continue to invite the same group. It's 175 that's on the list, trying to touch all areas of the county, all business sectors, and those that have traditionally invested in economic and community development, so they can stay apprised of our progress, and we can continue to update you on the marketing deliverables as those come about, and the results of our programming. And I want you to take away that you're hearing that while we work in the areas of programming on the top priorities, things that are already underway, we are also working on marketing, not just for Greenwood together at the same time, but the marketing to tell a story in each one of these, a better story in each one of these areas. So while we have a workforce strategic plan that will give us an implementation strategy, while that will give us some marketing recommendations to tell a better story about the positives from our educational system, our educational outcomes in Greenwood that we know, but we need help communicating to the rest of the world. While we're getting those marketing recommendations, also a part of that strategy will be recommendations to align curriculum with our higher education institutions and our training providers and other workforce programs to enhance the outcomes while we're telling the story at the same time. So again, there's parallel tracks on the programming to address the areas of need while we are doing the marketing to tell an even better story in the meantime in each of these priority areas. Thank you all again for being here and open it up for questions. A last reminder before I forget that some of you have already received the stakeholder survey in an attempt to be totally comprehensive and all-inclusive, took another look at that distribution list to make sure that all of the right and necessary people are receiving that opportunity to engage. And that survey will be distributed, I believe it's going to be later this afternoon, by Design Sensory. You should see it come from Chris Wise. It will be a reminder to those that have already received it and an invitation to those that are receiving it for the first time. And they're going to ask you to complete that over the next week with a deadline on it so that they can present to us those findings. And you will have a input in the direction of this cooperative effort that will help us to recruit and retain business, industry, and talent in Greenwood. Come up and open to any questions for myself, Chamber, Tourism, Discover Greenwood, or Uptown Greenwood. Any specifics you'd like to know?
Excellent summary, James.
The last thing I'll say, David, one sheets were mentioned, informational one sheets, a takeaway for David and I when we have held these joint calls with business and industry stakeholders, which by the way is just a start. By no means are those all of the stakeholders or players in economic and community development. We're meeting with as many as we can, as fast as we can, as we hadn't got to you yet. Our intent is to get to you with one-on-one meetings, continue to have this group gather monthly, make presentations like we did last week to the Greenwood Rotary Club. I've offered to make a presentation to town councils as well as we move forward with this effort to keep everyone involved. Those one sheets, though, will be something to put in your hands, hopefully by the January, at least by the February meeting, that give you a summary of what it is that we've discussed today, high level. If you're scratching your head on like organizational structure, which there is no new organization, each operating independently under the Greenwood Together unified brand, these one sheets that we're telling you about would help depict how this all works together and how we're going to accomplish the goals that we've set forth. Just wanted you to know that as well.
Lee for Kelly. I'm assuming in trying to recruit workers for all these companies James is going to bring, how are you selling quality of life? Is that in the plan to tell people here's what you have in Greenwood?
Yes, there is a quality of life component on the microsite, which will outline and detail a lot of what our own site already has listed on it. So we are going to proceed and partner with the Chamber on that.
Everything we do working together touches on quality of life. One of the things that I realized as I sat back down and I spoke to housing, I only spoke to housing as it relates to what industry has given back to us as a problem for them, and that is the ability to recruit executive professionals into living in Greenwood. But the other end of the housing spectrum has to do with affordable housing. It has to do with our entire county and how we can better address affordable housing to meet the needs of all citizens. Having worked with Habitat for Humanity for over 6 years now in terms of home building and how their program works, everybody in Greenwood deserves an ability to live in a home that is safe, that is warm, that is cooled in the summertime, and there's a lot of our population that doesn't have this. So a great deal of focus and effort is also going to be brought to bear with addressing that need also. The quality of life is what we all do, what we all touch on. Other questions?
Will today's presentation be, is it available email? For instance,
Absolutely.
can it be emailed to me?
Absolutely, yes. It is being recorded, and we will be able to send it out to you. That's not a problem.
I just related to the K-12 piece of this, because I know it's probably going to mostly come out in the workforce piece of it, but that's an area that touches on industrial recruitment and everything else. Is that the expectation? Is just the, I guess, the perceptions, the ratings, those kind of things, for that to come out in the workforce development study? Is that?
Excellent question. Yes, it is anticipated that it's going to come out in that, and a lot of our discussions have been around the fact that we have to tell a better message about our community as it relates to its educational opportunities, not just what's on the report card that many people look at. But we need to highlight the strengths of our educational system, both in public as well as in private, to celebrate all the achievements that our students in this community do as it relates to sports, as it relates to academics, as it relates to the ability to capture scholarshiping, to go on to post-high school education. So that's some of the messaging area that we intend to work on as we go over time. And that will be part of the workforce component of that. Great question. Other questions? We'll be around for a few minutes afterwards if you wanted to speak with any of us individually. As James alluded to, we're going to do a series of these over the next 3 months, and they will all come at the 2 o'clock hour on the day of County Council's meeting, which is the first Tuesday of every month. We appreciate your investment of time. There's a lot of exciting things going on in Greenwood, and we will continue to keep you updated. Thank you.
Just